Hey! Hey! What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another trade recap. Hope you all like that segment there. Anyways, let's get into the freaking banger that we ended up smoking today. TP hit once again within the first 10 minutes of market open because we are the best to ever do it. Anyways, smoked freaking T Pizzle, made like $1,200 again, $1,100, something around that range. De-risk because it's a Friday. I'm not going to full risk on Friday. If you get stopped out, then, it's going to ruin your day, stuff like that. So anyways, de-risk on Friday. But anyways, knock on wood, June's been pretty good so far. June's been, I mean, come on. Come on. June's been pretty good. But anyways, let's get into the trade that we ended up taking today. So, as you can see, if you look at the higher time frame, right, what does this look like to you? Well, this looks like extremely bearish to me. That's what that looks like. So obviously, like, realistically, right, you're looking short. Okay, you're looking to go short, up probably until we sweep out this low, potentially this low down here, and then after that you can look to potentially go long. But we're looking short most of the time. That's what we're looking for. Anyways, so off of market open, what ended up happening? Well, first of all, I want you guys to notice this, right? Right here in the 30-minute, you can see accumulation. This little manipulation higher into this 4-hour gap right here, as you can see, right? And therefore, what happens after that? Distribution lower. And what happened after that? Distribution lower. AMD in the higher time frame is almost always going to play out. So keep that in mind when you're trading. Now, off of market open, what ended up happening? Well, we had this low resistance liquidity right here. You can see we're just kind of grinding down, blah, 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 blah. And, that needed to get taken out before we went short. The other thing is this data wick right here. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But anyways, with that being said, off of market open, we end up manipulating higher into this 30-minute gap. We also had this hourly gap up here that was resting at that data high, right? So thinking to yourself, okay, well, we could manipulate up into the hourly gap. We could manipulate down to the 30-minute gap, use the 30-minute gap to then go lower. I personally didn't think we needed that hourly gap higher, but, we always could have taken it. Anyways, we ended up manipulating, as you can see, into this 30-minute gap right here, right? And it's basically just your textbook Judas swing. You have manipulation higher or lower, and then distribution in the opposite direction, right? Tapping into a high time frame PD array, and then, it's just beautiful. Anyways, we had that accumulation, manipulation higher, and then distribution lower too. But that delivery off that 30-minute gap, which is right here, which is also a 5-minute gap, I believe, not a 15-minute gap, but it was a 5-minute gap. And then 2-minute inversion back to the downside. I actually was not going off the 2-minute inversion. I had zero clue that there even was a 2-minute. I was just waiting for the 1 minute to get inversion. So that's why I entered off this, and I got a fucking terrible fill, as you can see. But it was basically the 2-minute inversion. Not that big of a deal. Anyways, regardless of that being said, break even at this low right here, and then as you can see, full TP. We got absolutely edged. I was low-key worried that we weren't going to continue back down, but thankfully we did. The trading gods were on our side for today. But those are essentially all the confluences. There's not many confluences with the trade. Delivery off of a 30-minute gap and a 5-minute gap with a 2-minute inversion, targeting 1-to-1. That's it, right? That's really it. We didn't even really have a draw on liquidity here. Like, we weren't targeting any specific thing. We were break even at this low, and then targeting 1-to-1, right? So the very, 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 very little confluences with this trade. Now, with that being said, a lot of people in my DM said, yo, why are you fading the data wick? Why aren't you targeting the data wick? Why aren't you blah, 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 data wick? Number one, with data wicks, something like this, we usually take out data wicks almost right away after we make them, right? As you can see, this move back upwards is that move to take out that data wick. And as you can see, we failed to do that, right? You can also see here that this data wick actually ended up sweeping out a high inside of a 15-minute gap. And what do you guys know about that? that makes this data wick a protected high, right? So why would we go and sweep out that data wick when it is a protected high, right? You have to think about, okay, yes, it is a data wick, but you also have to think about actual rules within trading and PD arrays and how we reject off of confluences and everything like that, right? Just because it's a data wick doesn't mean, oh, we're going to take that out regardless, right? You have to be thinking about what else will happen with that at the same exact time, right? Now, in this scenario, we ended up taking out a high resting inside of a 15-minute gap, right? So therefore, that is a protected high now. So are we realistically going to go sweep out that high if we are going to continue bearish? No, we're not. If we push up all the way to this high and we take it out, we're probably going to flip bullish, right? And that's exactly what I was thinking. That's exactly why I didn't need to go take out that data wick. So all of you guys complaining about the data wick, there's your answer right there. The manipulation to the 30-minute gap was all I needed, and then continuation back to the downside with that 2-minute inversion, whatever, you know. That's really it, bro. There truthfully was not that many confluences with this trade. Only thing I wanted to talk about was that data wick, and we obviously figured out the data wick. But yeah, so you don't always need to target, you know, data wicks. It's not always going to get hit. Also, another thing too is if we pushed up and we didn't take out this data wick off of this move back up, realistically, we're not going to take it out, right? And that's also the other thing that you got to realize as well. You're just judging based off of probabilities and where we're at in any specific moment, right? So we tapped into this 30-minute gap. The 30-minute gap could potentially push us lower and be our move. The 30-minute gap also could get disrespect and we could come up to this data wick, right? And so that's kind of what you're thinking. You're just judging your probabilities. Well, if we inverse this 1 minute back to the downside with heavy displacement and we also inverse the 2-minute, then, you know, realistically, I'm probably going to take this trade because that goes along with my narrative, goes along with where I want price to go, and it gives me an entry to actually take a trade. So that's exactly why I'm going to take that trade. But regardless of that being said, that's a trade from today. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, hit me up down in the comment section. I will answer all of you guys. Won't take a trade tomorrow because it's the weekend. So have a great weekend. Have a beautiful weekend. Have a blessed weekend. You are all loved. Get off the charts this weekend. Go do something that you like doing. Have some fun. Let loose. Relax a little bit. I don't know. Get off the charts. But we'll regroup. Catch all boys back up on Monday. And have a great week next week as well. Peace out.